Hey, indie filmmakers, I'm Griffin Hammond.
I'm Nick Bodmer, and on this week's episode, Griffin's drone catches the attention of the Australian police.
That is true. Plus, your questions about nat sound breaks, avoiding light flicker in foreign countries, and capturing slow motion audio.
How are you?
I am good. I am in Sydney, Australia. I'm actually in the I'm on the convention floor at SMPTE right now.
Oh, very fun. Have you presented already?
I did. I had a presentation today, and I have another one today, and several more over the next few days. So if you happen to be in Sydney, you should come to SMPTE, the free broadcasting trade show.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
So let's jump right into it, because I'm a little concerned. You caught the attention of the Australian police. What happened?
I did. So I came to Sydney thinking this could be the perfect place. Australia could be the perfect place to test out my drone, my DJI Spark, the one that I crashed a few episodes ago on the podcast.
So it still works? Is that what you're telling me?
Still works just fine, yeah.
Okay,
but I don't have
good.
many opportunities to fly with it in New York City, so I thought out here in the wide open spaces, and I even read all the rules about drones here. As long as you're operating 30 meters away from people and you don't go above a certain height, as long as I'm not endangering anyone, it seems like I'm allowed to fly it, right?
Or so you thought.
That's what I thought. So I went to a place in Sydney called The Domain, and all I did was I flew it like around a tree a little bit, just like pretty close to the ground, around a tree, just for like a minute, and I was having some sort of compass error, so it actually wouldn't let me fly above 16 feet, so I wasn't even doing very much.
Okay.
And then I left that spot, and I started walking. I was kind of disappointed, like, why is my compass not working? It took me a while to figure that out. I had to like recalibrate it for Australia, I guess, because I'm probably because I'm in the southern hemisphere now.
Oh, that's funny.
And I ended up in a different spot, and I hadn't even started flying yet. I just found like this spot where no one was around. It seemed like a good spot to be, and I was starting to set it up, messing with the compass, and all of a sudden I heard like that quick siren. The police were like, whoop, whoop.
Yeah, like to get your attention siren. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, but they weren't even near me. It's like, oh, I could hear that police are nearby. Like I can't even see them. And then eventually this officer came and found me, and she was like, hey, do you have a permit for that? I was like, no.
And you're like, no.
And she's like, and then she was like, well, in the domain and the what did she call it? Like the trade lands or something? Trust lands. Yeah. She was like, on trust lands you can't fly. And I was like, oh, okay.
So what is the domain? I don't understand.
The domain is a park in Sydney, and I guess, and when I looked it up later, even though I was following like the Australia rules, it just so happens that this particular park, the domain, has a no drone rule, so I was afoul of that.
So you were not placed in handcuffs and drugged to the nearest penitentiary?
No, they were super nice about it. She was super nice, but now I know I can't fly there.
Okay, well, that's good. I did see some of your drone videos on like a rocky beach. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah, eventually the next day I went to Bondi Beach, which is over on the east side of things. It's the nearest beach to me, and really beautiful over there. I found a park that I could fly in, or at least no one was stopping me from flying there. I think I was following the rules again.
Sure, we know how good you are at that.
Well, here's what surprises me though about when I was in the domain. I was only in that spot for like a few minutes flying, and then I went to another place where no one was. So that means that the police were called because someone saw me doing it in the first location, and then they came and found me at the second location.
Well, you're quite the criminal. You're a criminal mastermind, but they stopped you.
Like, someone at this park is like, I know the park rules, and I don't want to see
no
drones
here.
And they just like got on the phone right away. Like, I couldn't believe how. And then I don't know, does the officer like show up and like, where's that drone? And everyone was just pointing like that. He went that way.
So it was a pretty big park, I take it.
Yeah, really big park. Like not quite Central Park size, but pretty big.
It's always about New York with you, isn't it?
But yeah, my second day shooting in Bondi Beach, I went back to Bondi Beach because it seemed like if I went really early in the morning, there'd be no one there, and I could really get away with shooting. I just don't want to be around people. I don't want to endanger anyone or be in the way of anyone else's shooting. So I found some like...
For all we know, you're an excellent drone pilot. I've never seen you crash. Wait. Never mind.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have not crashed in Australia, so I think all I needed was some space to fly around.
Fancy that. And you've got your crash detection on now, I hope.
I did, yeah. The one thing that kind of freaked me out with the DJI Spark was that at one point after flying around for a few minutes, getting lots of shots, the battery life drained. It was down to like 15%. And at a certain point, it hits a threshold where the drone just automatically says, hey, I'm going to return home now because I don't have enough battery left. And so on the screen, it said, like, return home now. And I can override it if I want. But I just was like, all right, if you think you need to come home, that's great. But the first thing it did was it just flew straight up. Like, it just kept going up and up and up. And I was like, where are you going? So I immediately canceled it, and I was like, I can take control of this. I can bring it home. I didn't need it to do that for me, but I guess it just wanted to clear all the obstacles. But it started going really high up there.
Well, that's crazy. That's kind of cool that it would do that for you. I'd be interested just to let it do its thing and see what happens.
Right. Well, I just was waiting for it to slow down, and it showed no signs of it. It was going to go forever. It was going to go to space, I think, and then come back.
I don't think the physics of that worked, but we'll check into it.
Thin air. But the one thing I still need to do with the drone is I need to actually start shooting in manual video controls. Like, I've just been letting it do like auto white balance, auto exposure, yeah. And the shots I'm getting back are a little bit too blue for my taste, especially when I'm shooting sunrise. Like, I would expect it to be a little warmer.
Okay, so you'd have the ability though to do all that manual stuff. You can do a manual white balance, and do you just have presets, or can you do a custom?
I think you could just dial it in custom. Like, I know you could dial in the exposure. I actually couldn't find the white balance dial. It must be there, though, because it shows me the white balance it's chosen. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's next test. I need to actually shoot some video I'm proud of. I mean, I love the movement I'm getting, but my exposure was a little bit dark.
And does it jump around, or is it pretty good about locking it in and not hunting too much?
It jumps around, but like in a good responsive way. Like when I'm filming dark stuff, it gets brighter. I guess in one shot, though, it can change a lot with all that movement.
Yep, makes sense.
I wanted to bring up a couple YouTube comments we got from last week.
Yeah, people making fun of me.
No, actually, I think people love what you're saying. We got a YouTube comment from J Pierce Vids, who loved your comment when I guess I was saying people should go to griffinhammond.com/events, and you said, "What are you, a business?" And J Pierce Vids really liked that line. Good job.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny myself. And the answer is, I guess you are. You are a business, my friend. A force unto yourself. I'm not a businessman. I'm a business man. Let me handle my business. Damn. Is that Kanye? I think it's Jay-Z on a Kanye song. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But then Isaac Hatch on YouTube was making fun of you. I think he's making fun of you. His comment was simply, "Makes sense." Yeah, I say that a lot when I can't think of anything to say. When I have no real substance. I say, well, that makes sense. Let's move on. Actually, though, I appreciate that, because I think that what I want to be able to do better on the podcast is do a better job of just acknowledging when you say something perfect, and I don't need to add anything to it. Well, it's very rare, so you probably don't get a lot of practice. Makes sense. Nice. Well done. We got a YouTube comment from Matter Graphica, who laughs and says that he has the same video mic Go, and it's split broken in the exact same spot as yours. Yep. And he recommends the Video Micro. It's so small it won't break up at all, and it has excellent pickup. So, good little tip. Another thing to try for you. I looked that up. It looks like a cool form factor. It doesn't look like it'll break. And actually, I thought Shirley Road is at this trade show. I thought I'd go check it out, and I don't think they're actually here. Oh, too bad. Which is crazy, because they're an Australian company. Well, big mistake. Big mistake. And shows you it's expensive. Speaking of Rode, yeah, my audio last week, not so good. Did not turn out kind of like we hoped, did it? Yeah, someone commented that maybe you should retire that Tascam, that little tiny recorder. Yeah, that probably was the problem. I don't think it was the Rode video mic, but in my quick testing before we recorded, I thought it was okay, but it clearly was pretty bad. So apologies for that.
Well,
everybody.
and I'd be curious if you got the levels better, if maybe the recorder just performs badly with low levels. Maybe if you had a better signal-to-noise ratio, it'd be better. I don't know. But yeah, it was a little bit distorted.
There's probably a lot of things to try, but it was not right, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, what else do we need to talk about today?
What else do we need to talk about? I got a new laptop.
Ooh. What kind of laptop?
New MacBook Pro 13-inch. So I did have the late 2016 13-inch MacBook Pro without Touch Bar, and now I have the early 2017 MacBook Pro without Touch Bar. So a very slight upgrade. Barely, it's upgraded processor, and it's 16 gigs of RAM instead of 8.
If it doesn't have the Touch Bar, does that mean it still has like the SD card reader and all that stuff?
No.
Oh. So, what is it, all USB-C?
Yeah, and it only has 2 USB-C ports, whereas the ones with Touch Bar have 4.
Okay.
It's just the cheaper version.
Yeah.
So my work finally agreed to buy me a Mac. So I switched to this, and I basically just maxed out the config I could get for the price limit they sent me.
Cool, yeah.
But yeah, nice little upgrade. And now I can sell my current MacBook Pro and pocket the cash.
Yeah. Have you done any editing with it or anything yet?
Actually, yes. I've been editing a wedding that I'm working on. I've been playing more with multi-camera editing in Final Cut Pro. I really like it. It really, so when I shoot weddings, I only shoot 2 angles, but I had somebody else shoot this one for me. Yeah, but this one has 3, which I like, and using multicam to edit is really fast and easy, and I really enjoy doing it. So
I need you to explain multicam to me, because I know it's there, but I know that you and I have kind of edited the same way for a long time. I think the technique we've used is just synchronize your multiple camera angles, and they all probably have audio on them. So you can synchronize them. They all go into like kind of a compound clip, and I would just copy them out of the synchronized compound clip into a timeline, and then just edit by chopping, cut away the top layer, and you'll see down to the next layer.
Yeah, which works great until you get to 3 angles, and now all of a sudden you've got to chop 2 layers at a time, and it just becomes a mess. Right. So really, with more than 2 shot angles, you really need to go to multicam. So
what exactly? Like, I guess I can't exactly picture what the workflow is in a multicam edit. So
there is a compound clip called a multi-angle clip of a specific type, where you can go in and you can see all the, so I have 3 video sources and 2 audio sources in addition to those video sources, and you can kind of you can tweak them inside there. So if I want to put a limiter on one of the audio channels or something, I do it in that compound clip. But then when I have my project, I drop this multicam clip into the timeline, and it looks like just like one compound clip. And then you bring up the, in your video viewer, you can bring up the angles. So when you're playing it, you have your playback screen, and then you also have a little box that has all the different angles, so you can see them all at once. And then you can either click on each box of the angle you want it to cut to, or you can use the numbers. So like, I have mine set up so I have angles 1, 2, and 3, so I can just hit 2, 3, 1, 2,
and you do this live, like while it's playing back?
Yeah, I do it live while it's playing back, and then you can go back and tweak it really easy, because it just adds edit points that you can grab and scrub. So
I know that I'm such a stickler about edit points that I would not be getting it right live. Is there a way is it easy to stop and make the edit?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're playing back like normal, so you can scrub all the ways you would normally scrub through.
So could I just hit space to stop playing, go back a couple frames to the left arrow, and then hit 2 or
space,
something?
left arrow, hit 2, and it'll drop the cut right wherever you say. And then if you get it wrong, you can quickly adjust it too. So
I guess that is significantly easier than hitting Command-Shift-B to cut through every layer and then go. I would usually use the V button to like disable some tracks.
And you can imagine if you had 5 or 6 or 10 angles, it could get really messy.
Yeah.
And this is nice. The only thing, I haven't figured out a good workflow for dealing with audio. Right now, I'm kind of just enabling all 3. Because you can cut video, you can cut audio, you can cut video and audio when you're cutting, like when you're hitting the buttons. So I just only do video, and then I go back and kind of manually do the audio. There's probably a better way to do it, but I haven't quite figured it out yet.
Right, yeah.
So that's what I got going on.
Cool. So you're happy with the computer then?
I'm very happy with the computer. Yes, indeed. Should we answer some questions, my friend?
Yeah, we have a lot of questions today.
We
And
do.
Our first one is a YouTube comment from Filmland Studios. And just wondering if the Panasonic G7 is a good camera for $500. So I actually asked Scott Mellish, who's here, our Panasonic representative in Australia, and he says that the G7 is essentially like a GH4. It's just missing a few of like the higher bitrate shooting options, and I mean, for $500, it is a pretty good deal.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the one thing that you're missing out on by not going to like a G85, I think, is that in-body image stabilization. So, you know, I think image quality-wise, you're probably going to be very similar. So if in-body image stabilization is really important to you, it's probably worth upping the price. If it's not, I think the G7 is great.
Yeah, I think the G7 is half the price of the G85.
I used a G6 as my secondary camera for a long time. It was a great camera.
And then our next question is a YouTube comment from Jimberjam that's also about the G7. Just wondering... Oh, wait, sorry, I skipped ahead. This one is from Sabachino, who uses a Panasonic G7 currently. Sabachino. Sabachino uses a G7 to shoot films. And just wondering about affordable lenses for the G7. And so actually, this is a great time for me to go to Scott.
Of course, we have our prime lenses like the 25 1.4 and the 42.5 1.2 that I know you shoot with Griffin on your GH5, but we actually have some sort of baby brother versions of those lenses. So there's a 25mm f1.7 that's a few $100s in Australia, and there's also a 42.5 f1.7, again, just it's like $400 or $500 available in Australia as well. And the other lens to look at is the 20mm f1.7. Now, the thing with that lens is that it's a pancake lens. It's really small and portable, so if you're going for something that's an unobtrusive small package, it's a great option. It's also very sharp and gives you that subject isolation again that you might be looking for. And again, it's quite an affordable lens. It's only a few $100.
Cool. Thank you very much, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have that same lens, the Panasonic 20mm Pancake f1.7. That's a great lens. I use it all the time. In addition to being inexpensive and really fast, meaning it lets in a lot of light, it's also super compact since it's a pancake lens. So when I want to be discreet or just, you know, don't want a huge rig, it's really nice.
And I seem to remember that lens also focuses really close.
Ooh, yeah, I think it does. I don't know what it's the actual distance is off the top of my head, but that sounds right.
Yeah, I feel like I could focus like an inch or two away from things. I mean, it's probably the lens I've used, the Panasonic lens I've used that can focus the closest.
Well, we did get a question from Jimberjam, even though you jumped the gun earlier with his name or her name.
Just such a good name, Jimberjam.
It is a great name, and actually a really great question, so I'm glad you pulled this one out because I saw this on last week's episode. He said one of the things that really caught his attention in your Creative Live class was something you called Nat sound breaks. Can you talk about those, why you use them, how to use them, and maybe when not to use them?
Sure. So Nat sound, or sometimes we call it wild sound, is just the sound that goes along with B-roll. And actually most of the time, I'm not even recording this on like a super nice microphone. A lot of times I'm just capturing Nat sound on the camera's microphone because it's going to be...
What's B-roll?
B-roll is any shot that is not an interview, really. All the shots that show the story. Usually
so kind of the stuff you overlay over the top of an interview.
Exactly. Once I've made those cuts on the interview, creating lots of jump cuts, I need to cover those edits up with something beautiful. That's the B-roll.
Okay.
And the B-roll has its own sound, usually from the on-camera mic. And I always use a little bit of that Nat sound when you see B-roll. Usually it's at like negative 25 dB or something real low. But a Nat sound break is just when you let that audio come up. Like you stop doing the interview audio, you stop doing the voiceover in the documentary piece or the news story, whatever it is, and you just let the Nat sound happen for a moment.
Okay. And why do you do that?
Well, one, it's a great way to let the audience just kind of breathe. Like, let's pause for a moment and just change the pace. But also, I consider anything in Nat sound break if it's like not an interview. Like even if it's people talking, but they weren't talking like in an interview setting. Like if it's two people saying, wow, we won the race. That's great. You know, just people. It could be people in their natural environment showing emotion, or in the case of hand cut, there were a lot of like chainsaw moments or chipping ice moments. Those are nat sound breaks. Just letting that audio speak for itself.
And does that term come from TV news or?
Yeah, it's a TV news term. So when I think about like the ingredients of documentary, I talk about that a lot at these workshops. I think about SOTs, which are interviews. That stands for sound on tape. You have voiceover, you have B-roll, and you have nat sound breaks. I mean, those are really the 4 ingredients to documentary.
And you sprinkle them all together, and you get a doc.
Yeah, I mean, anything you're making, really any creative work you're making, it benefits from having variety. So in a documentary, you just want to use a little bit of each, so that you're not too heavy on sound bites, you're not too heavy on nat sound. You want all of it to help tell the story.
Love it. Makes sense, Griffin. It makes sense.
Makes total sense.
Sense has been made.
Here's a YouTube comment we got from Praveen in India, and he asks about the GH5 settings. This is actually an interesting question. He says everything is working well on the camera. He's shooting video. It's great. Photos are great. Then the moment he goes to shoot time lapses, he hits the shutter. It takes a photo, and then the camera just shuts off. And he's like, "What is wrong with my camera?"
That doesn't seem good.
Do you have any idea what's happening? No, it doesn't sound good, right?
Well, no, but
actually, I think I know exactly what's happening.
Is it just kind of turning off while it waits to take the next picture?
Exactly.
Or is there an
I think that's
problem?
what's happening here. I don't know if he has a real problem. I'm wondering what his interval is on the intervalometer.
Yeah, if you have like a 1 minute interval, you're not going to see it do anything for like another minute, and it probably shuts everything down in between to save battery.
It does. I think I've noticed that even as low as like a 15-second interval on the time-lapse mode, the camera will shut itself off between photos just to save battery. So I guess I wonder what his interval is, because that sounds like that's what it's doing.
All right, Praveen, check your interval and try some patience. That sounded
Here's
negative.
An email
it
that we got
negative.
from Harvey. Harvey is 17 and has been making films for a long time. Just got a GH5, big investment for him. His words, but that's true. $2,000 is a big investment for a camera. And he is wondering why everything in the camera is either 50p or 25p frames per second. He doesn't have any options to shoot like 30 or 60.
Sounds like a European model.
Well, the GH5 comes in like a global model, but he probably is in that PAL mode for Europe. So I think if he just goes to the system frequency and switches it from the 50 hertz mode, if he goes to the 59.94 hertz mode, then that's like American version.
I see. In the notes here, you're explaining the answer. I thought that was part of his question, and he was saying he already had it set correctly.
Oh yeah, I wrote back to him and told him he should go to menu, setup, and there's a menu called system frequency where you could switch it from 50 to 59.94.
Beautiful, beautiful.
But the one thing he has to worry about here is if he's shooting in, I mean, there's a reason his camera wants to shoot 50 hertz in his country. Let's see, where is he? I guess maybe he's in the UK. The lighting there flickers at 50 times a second. So if he's going to shoot in 60 frames per second, if he's going to shoot in a frame rate that does not match the refresh rate of his lighting, he at least needs to shoot in a shutter speed that matches his lighting.
Yep.
Which in this case would have to be 1/100th of a second.
We've got an email from Joshua. He says he loves your content and Sriracha. He's a new GH4 user, and he wants some lens advice for a narrative short only. And he lists out 3 potential lenses: the Vedra 25mm cinema lens, the Sigma 18 to 35mm, or the Voigtlander 25mm. Go, Griffin, go.
I actually don't think I've shot with any of those, although the one that I probably hear people the most excited about is the Sigma 18 to 35. I believe it has a really good f-stop on it. I can't remember.
Is that one of their art lenses?
Oh, I don't know. It was new a few years ago.
Line that's really good. Yeah.
My response to him was that I know that personally I don't know if he's only choosing one of these lenses, if this would be his only lens to shoot with. I know that personally, if I was stuck with just a 25mm, I would feel pretty limited. It's a beautiful portrait focal length, but like I like really wide. So, I mean, even 18 for me might not be wide enough. So one thing to consider is just that a zoom lens is going to be much more versatile. He may not get the great f-stop that the other lenses may have, but I think I would be wanting some more versatility.
Yeah, and it is an f1.8 constant. And it is one of their art lenses. It's an f1.8.
Okay, so yeah, at f1.8, that's still going to do really well. I'd be interested in how that compares to the f-stops on the other two primes.
So
that Voigtlander, though, is probably an f0.95.
Oh yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? My 18 to 35 Panasonic is an f2.8, so how much less light is that, Griffin? From an f2.8 to an f1.8?
Well, an f2.8 down to an f2 would be doubling the light, so that's about, it's a little bit more than 2 times the light.
It's a lot
of light.
It's like
a stop and a third. Yeah.
I just wanted to test your knowledge there. I knew the answer. You memorized 1 and 1.4, and then you know the scale. And you can't have 4 times less light.
Right, now we know it's just a quarter of the light.
That's right.
We are learning every week.
Every day.
Here's an email we got from Mike, who has usually been shooting with a Sennheiser or a Rode mic plugged right into his DSLR. But he's pointing out that the GH5, when you shoot super slow motion, like 180 frames per second, when you're in one of these variable frame rate modes to do those high frame rates, you don't get any audio. The camera just doesn't record audio. So he wants to hear that super slow motion roaring sound, and just wondering how he should do it. Maybe use his H5 like I do, plug in a shotgun mic, but he also doesn't want to get like a big rig going. So I don't know, do you have any ideas for how to like keep this lightweight but still get some audio?
Well, I mean, you're gonna have to add more gear, so it's gonna get a little heavier, right? So I mean, I think if you can get the H5 mounted directly to the camera, and then, I don't know, I mean, is there an easy way to mount 2 cold shoes to a GH5? I guess they make adapters for that, right? That'll let you kind of mount them side by side.
Like, there's like a V adapter that like turns your 1 cold shoe mount into 3 that I've used. But he also mentions like maybe using a cage. I mean, that would certainly be one way to mount everything together. But I also think that like, don't underestimate the fact that it's a feature to be able to shoot separately on an audio recorder. An audio recorder doesn't have to be attached to the camera, so maybe you mount it to your belt or something. Like, it doesn't all have to be on the camera.
Yeah, and that lets you get the mic closer to the audio source than the camera, which sometimes is very helpful. So
right,
like
and maybe someone else holds the audio.
Yeah, when we're doing interviews, it's pretty common for me to run the camera for you while you stand to the side holding the mic and audio recorder separately, so you can get that mic right where you want it.
And also, I think the kind of sound you get when you slow it way down into slow motion, it becomes such a foreign sound. Like, the audience doesn't know what to expect or even know how to interpret it. So, like, one, you could probably get away with lower quality audio. Like, you could probably record it with a phone or something, you know, maybe not even with your nice shotgun mic. But 2, you could Foley this or like use fake audio or record the audio later. Because I don't know if the audience would notice that it's not matching up because it's already going to be so weird.
Yeah, and it gets at 180 frames per second slowed down. That's going to be quite a dramatic pitch shift down as well.
Right. I mean, I've done that with like time lapses in hand cut. Like, there is no sound to go with the time lapse, so I'll speed something up. It sounds really weird. And I've done that with slow motion too. Just like take a sound from something else that should sound similar, slow it down, and it's all going to sound interesting.
Well, Griffin, you know what that is? That makes sense.
We should get T-shirts that say, that makes sense. Or no, it's not even that makes sense. It's just makes sense.
Makes sense. Period.
You're really avoiding it this episode.
Yeah, I'm really kind of self-conscious about it now.
This next email from Christian actually starts with a question for you, Mr. Bodmer.
I see that. It's Mr. Bodmer. That's my father, not me.
Well, you are a father, Mr. Bodmer. And
I am. And
his
I guess
question
that's
is about that. He says he's literally hours away from the birth of his first child. Congratulations, Christian. And he's just wondering, you as a father yourself, Nick, how does having a family affect your career?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's going to eat up a lot of your time. So kind of the all hours of the night editing that I might have used to pull off doesn't happen as much anymore. So I now have 3 kids, which really takes a dent into the free time you have to pour into some of these projects. But, you make it work. I mean, no matter what you do, having kids is definitely going to dramatically change your life, and you just learn to fit all that in.
Well, and some things probably jive with that lifestyle pretty well. Like, in a way, if you were a full-time freelancer, I mean, freelancing can be much more difficult than having a full-time job, but you might even have the flexibility to be home more often.
Yeah, exactly. Or be home when you need to be home and, play the schedule game with, your significant other.
Yeah.
So that is good.
And clearly you feel that being a father is rewarding.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I'll keep them around for now. We'll see.
They're free actors.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they are the subject of most of my photo and video work these days.
Yeah. And then Christian has a second half to this question. For me, Mr. Hammond. He is thinking about quitting his full-time job, and especially because he's having a child. But he doesn't want to lose his health care benefits, and he says that's a big issue. And yeah, that is a big issue.
Well, let's talk about politics, Griffin. Oh, maybe not.
Well,
maybe we'll skip it. We'll skirt around that.
Through your full-time job, right?
I have health care for my family through my whole full-time job, yeah. And that would be very expensive to replace because it's quite good healthcare. So I wish that healthcare was not tied to our careers, because I think it would enable a lot more entrepreneurship and the ability to say, no, I don't want to go work for a corporation. I want to try my own company and do my own thing. That we don't have that option in the United States right now. So you're looking at, the healthcare market and seeing what subsidies you can accept. I don't really know much about that process. You might know more since you are self-employed.
Right. Well, I had amazing healthcare through Bloomberg, and when that job went away, I am now a freelancer, but I'm lucky that my wife also works, so we have healthcare through her job, which is not as good. And so I've looked on the marketplace, and in New York at least, I guess I was surprised looking at the marketplace for the first time that I can't, even if I want to spend a lot of money, get the same wonderful level of healthcare. It's kind of like they're not offering those same levels of coverage for freelancers.
It's frustrating.
Yeah. Well, and I often think that it does seem really appealing to be an independent filmmaker and go completely freelance. It feels like an accomplishment. It feels like you're successful as a filmmaker to go all freelance. But it's difficult, and there's a lot of trade-offs, and I encourage people, as long as you can, stick with a full-time job, because you get all these other benefits. You get vacation time, you can work on the weekends on your projects, and you have that safety net that if you fail to get enough freelance jobs, you still have someone paying you every week to show up.
Yeah, I think it's important when you are comparing, what you might need to replace your full-time job in terms of income, to think about all those benefits that aren't just your salary.
Right.
Total compensation. Total compensation.
Well, that's been the Life Advice Corner of the Hey.film podcast.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, kids are very expensive. Also, just a warning, they cost a lot of money, especially when you have 3. Yeah,
well, just make sure you put them to work on the farm, and then
That's right. My 2-year-old is great with a plow. So we got a tweet from Shaden Dreams. Griffin, what do you say on the Rokinon? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Rokinon.
12mm 2.2. Also, what's a wireless audio solution for the GH5 for shooting a web series? P.S. Thank you.
So you notice how it's not f2.2, it's a t2.2 lens?
Yeah, I skipped right over that because I didn't understand what that meant.
Have you heard of T-stops before?
No.
So a lot of times when you look at cinema lenses, they are T-stops instead of f-stops. And even until like last week, I didn't really understand what the difference was. So I finally educated myself. And really all it is that f-stop, I mean, we know what f-stop is. It's the measure of how much light is making it through the lens and hitting the sensor. I feel like I'm probably saying that wrong, but that's effectively what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And an f-stop is a theoretical number. It's like they build the lens, it has a certain aperture opening, they can calculate how much light should be coming in. But effectively, that number might be different. You know, maybe there's some reflections on the inside, or it's light is being absorbed by the inside of the lens. Different physical factors of the lens might actually limit how much light is actually making it through. So a T-stop is a actual measurement. They have to like when they make these lenses, they have to spend more making them because they have to test each particular one and make sure that it's hitting the number it's supposed to hit.
And are they? Do they correlate? Are they similar? Is a 1.8 T-stop and f-stop, theoretical, about the same?
Right. Yeah, they're the same measurement. It's just one is an actual and one is a theoretical.
Very cool.
And I guess the primary benefit of that is just knowing that if you buy a bunch of T 2.0 lenses for your film shoot, they're going to match perfectly. So you can switch between your different focal lengths.
Gotcha. That makes
Whereas
sense.
my understanding is you might get an f1.4 lens, two different f1.4 lenses, and one of them might effectively be an f1.6 and one might be an f1.8. Like you can lose like a third or 2/3 of a stop, I think.
Goodness. Did not know that.
Yeah. All that being said, I have not used the Rokinon 12mm T2.2, so I can't really speak to it.
I'm sure it's lovely. Wireless audio solution for a web series. I have a solution. It's called Don't Use Wireless. If you can avoid it, don't. It's just expensive headaches.
Yeah. Especially, I guess I don't know the nature of your web series, but if it really is like a fictional thing where you have a lot of control over the shots, why not have a boom mic above everyone? Or even like do ADR, like voice it over after the fact if the takes are that short.
Yep, I agree.
I suppose if you're doing like a prank show or something where the actors like need to be mic'd up and they're kind of running around on their own away from the cameras, I could understand why you might need wireless mics.
Yep, and if so, just read lots of reviews and be ready to spend real money, not cheap money.
What's that Rode one that I feel like a lot of people use? Like the Rode Link, I think?
Oh, I don't know. I wasn't aware of a Rode wireless product.
Yeah, I've encountered a lot of videographers who use that, so perhaps that's a good one.
Interesting.
But I'm always wary of wireless mics just because I've been in too many environments where there's too many wireless products around and causing problems.
Yeah, and you don't know you've got a problem until later.
Yeah. Our final question is a tweet from Ticos Teaches ESL, which is English as a second language, I imagine. Ticos is wondering if he only has prime lenses, doesn't have enough money for zoom lenses. He's clearly going to be swapping lenses a lot while shooting, and just wondering what's the best way to do that when it's on a shoulder rig. I guess he's working with the Panasonic 14mm and the 25mm. Oh, 25mm is a great lens.
Yeah. I guess I don't really understand what he's asking us here. Do you understand? I mean, you just swap the lens, set the rig down and swap the lens? What are we looking for here?
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously if you don't have enough cash for a zoom lens, you don't have enough cash for a second camera body. So one of my luxuries is that I'm using two camera bodies, and that means I do a lot less lens swapping. I can, especially when I was hiking recently in Switzerland, I would keep one camera around my neck on the neck strap and one holstered on my pants. I was using the Spider Light, what do they call it? The Spider holster. I also, when I have two camera bodies, I've often done like, I'll put the same quick release system on multiple devices. Like maybe on my tripod, I have one Giotto's quick release system. I have the same Giotto's quick release system on my shoulder rig. That makes it easy. But I think
I'm trying to think through how I do it. I'm not usually using a shoulder rig, so it could be a little different if you can't handle the shoulder rig one-handed, but I pop one lens off and I put it in my bag, even with like no caps on or anything, and I've gotten good at grabbing a lens out of my bag and taking the back cap off with one hand.
With one hand, yeah.
Yeah, and then putting it on, and then if I have time, I'll go back and put that cap back on the one that just came off. I'll put it on the new lens, but if I don't have time, I just leave it open in my bag and keep shooting.
Right, I do that too, and it can be hard to reach your bag, especially if you're wearing it. So a lot of times it helps when it's cool outside. If I'm wearing a jacket, I'll often just use that front pocket and throw a lens in there, and that way I can quickly switch lenses.
We should have like a showdown where we like who can swap their lenses the fastest.
Well, I've always been interested. There's some products out there that are like, essentially it's like a rear cap attached to you. Like you can imagine one like on your chest where you could like rear cap your lens onto yourself. I don't know how secure that is.
You're seeing me shake my head because it makes me very sad and scared for my lens.
Yeah, like all you would do is just bump it and rub it the wrong way and it would just fall off.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. It must attach like the camera does, where you need to push a button to release. It must clip in.
Yeah. And I can't remember the name of the product, but I've seen being at these trade shows, I've seen one that's like 3 of those on your belt. It's like a rotating thing, and you can mount 3 lenses that way.
A rotating thing like the old school television lenses, where you rotate the thing?
Kind of like that. Yeah, except I think these kind of like hang down. It's almost like it's like a Y that spins around on the axis of your belt.
Love it. Love it. Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, my battery light on the GH5 is blinking. We've been going for 42 minutes, and I think I started with like half the battery life because I've been doing presentations.
I see. So you're ill-prepared for your day. No problem.
No, I was exactly the level of prepared because I think we're done.
I'm just giving you a hard time. Just giving you a hard time. The audience loves it when I tease you.
Yeah, I think the more problems I can bring to my shoots, the more entertaining this is.
You would never tease me, though. You're too nice a guy.
Well, I often don't know about the problems that you've introduced to our shoot until you send me the footage.
Yes. Yes. I did screw up at the beginning.
In fact, we didn't even go over this week. Last week you sent me some interlaced footage. What are you shooting today?
I switched it over back to MP4 out of ABC
Okay,
HD,
good.
so I think we're in good shape.
All right, well, I should let you go before this camera cuts off.
Goodbye, my friend. Have fun in Australia. When are you back in NYC?
I am back like next week. I'll be back for our next episode.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Plus your questions about Nat sound.
Stop. Sorry.
What'd you do?
I didn't put my headphones in. I just had my laptop sound rolling loud. Bad call.